Don't wait too long.
And then it was
Because
like
it's
I finally
recorded.
just like 20 minutes.
Are we doing introductions at the start?
Around the building.
I was just gonna do
Is it like as we speak?
When it's like your turn to speak.
Yeah,
I was just
okay.
assuming we were doing it.
Okay.
So that, you know, it can be closer to that.
Because then it's less confusing.
Not if they can't want Sunday.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I'm just starting voting.
Are we?
Just like peanut oil error. And a writing error.
I'm
first.
I was just gonna say it because I'm right after you.
And I'm right after.
Well, I think I'm after you now.
Yeah.
How are you?
I know, I know, but you
I
have to
added
picture
like,
because
I added
Jonathan and
like
Brenna were
5
laughing.
slides after.
I actually was like, I'm just gonna get here, so I thought we should balance it out.
Yeah, I'll run over here.
It would
And
be
then-
Yeah, we need like one more
They're
person.
not gonna
Sounds
see you
good.
guys.
Done, that's fine.
It's okay.
I'll just
They won't see them,
emerge
but
from
it's
behind
okay.
the poster.
Sounds like a plan for me.
We won't use the
Oh, yeah,
answer.
problem.
Yeah.
So you need the clicker.
Yeah, I was just like thinking that. Okay, are we good? Awesome. All right. So hi, I'm Brenna. I am a senior archaeology major, and I'm so excited that everyone is here to learn more about our project. All right, let's get started. So what is the a queer memory project? So in our words, it's a multi-semester initiative that aims to elucidate LGBTQ plus history by recognizing, revitalizing, and sharing the histories of those who have been silenced at the University of Evansville and beyond. By looking into archival research, engaging in oral history, and looking into digital storytelling, we were able to uncover stories of queer presence and erasure, ranging from student activism on campus to the a nationwide project of the AIDS Memorial Quilt. So our project aims to spark dialogue on our campus and beyond regarding Evansville's queer history and the impact of the AIDS epidemic and how that tragedy both devastated and empowered the queer community nationwide, ultimately seeking to spark memory, identity, and institutional change. Our ultimate goal is to bring the University of Evansville memorial quilts to our campus, so that they can be set up and displayed in the Melvin Peterson Gallery, thereby allowing the names of those who have been lost to become visible and to further elucidate queer history on and off campus. So what is the purpose of all this, and why does it exist? So queer history and struggle tends to fade over time from the public consciousness, whether it be from a lack of discourse or active erasure at the hands of our current administration and our current political climate. So it is therefore imperative that we take it upon ourselves to learn these stories and to give people a renewed voice to share their own identities and stories and to continue with their legacies. And whether or not you are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, the fight for a recognition and acceptance extends to all of us, and the Queer Memory Project is the beginning of that legacy.
Oh, I am blinded. Hey, okay, wherever, the light just follows me wherever I go.
We do that later.
Yeah. I am Lily. I am a senior math major here at UE. So the AIDS Memorial Quilt, for any of y'all who don't know, it was a craftivism project conceived by an activist named Cleve Jones in 1985. So this is like kind of the beginning of the height of the AIDS epidemic. It was displayed on the National Mall in 1987, 88, 92, and 96. 3 quilt squares were actually made here at UE. And so it was once each year in this AIDS Week event that happened, so 92, 93, and 94. And they ended up being spread across these 2 different quilt blocks. And so our goal of this project is to eventually bring these quilts back to UE for an exhibit in hopefully fall of 2027, fingers crossed. So I wanted to take the opportunity to show everyone here what these quilt squares actually look like. So these are in chronological order. So this is the one that was made in 1992. This is the one that was made in 1993. And this is the one that was made in 1994. So they were not at the original display on the National Mall, but they were in some of the subsequent ones.
You were not kidding. Okay. So, hello everybody. My name's Isaiah. I'm a freshman nursing student, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about one of our events that we have termed Chalking for Change. So, as some of you may know, in 2016, on June 12th, there was a tragic event that took place, which was the shootout of Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Due to this event, there were rainbow crosswalks created in solidarity for the LGBTQ community, which served as a memorial for the lives that were lost during it, which was 50 lives lost, including the gunman himself, which was later, I won't get into that. And then there were 58 wounded. So here's a picture of the crosswalks after they were built. There's a little chicken here. You can't really see because it's pixelated, but we thought it would be kind of cute to add.
Chicken across the street.
Yeah. So later on, or this year during early August and late September, these crosswalks were actually removed, which does this have a laser pointer? No. If you look down here in this bottom picture, it was completely removed and painted over black. Here's a picture of the Pulse nightclub logo right here. It sits right here on the corner. So, This led to our event, which I said we've named Chalking for Change, which brought together the campus community as well as citizens from outside of the campus to come together and display a visibility and solidarity for the LGBTQ community. And it brought everyone together to kind of show support for each other in the difficult times that we've talked about, the current political climate that we are in.
Hi, I'm Haley. I'm a creative writing junior. I'm not that cool, sorry. So what you are looking at is multiple screenshots from the app Big Cat. And if none of you know what that is, it is basically a social media app where you can connect with people who are on your campus and make posts, you can make them anonymous and all that stuff. So naturally, we were checking out what our campus response was on here because we want to know, but also because we knew we would get some backlash for this and we wanted to catalog it, which we did. We have 25 slides worth in a separate slideshow of just responses. They're mostly negative.
Aww.
Unfortunately, yes. So there were a lot of, I'll get into the negative responses first actually. So here, I know it's really pixelated, so I'm just gonna go for it. So there is an entire streak of what we assume and hope to be water over the chalk, but people were talking about peeing on it. We have no idea if it is what was water or pee. We still don't know, and we really don't want to know because ew. It's just kind of crazy. It's chalk. And then we have threads like this that were posted as well, where someone says, genuine question, is being gay a choice, gene, or illness? And the top response to this, at the time when I took the screenshot, is being gay is not a choice nor is it an illness. Someone can't choose to be gay as much as they can't choose to be straight. The fact that people don't believe it is, the fact that people believe it's an abnormality and something to be highlighted as weird is where the main issue lies. Now you might be hopefully thinking that this person is just asking this out of curiosity. I was too, and then I read their response. Do you think it's a gene then? I hope that they are trolling, because it really seems like they're not, considering that all of the options here are, it's a choice, which means that you choose to be that, which means that it's entirely dependent on a lot of different factors that could or could not be considered valid by a lot of different people. It's genetic, which is a whole different host of problems, considering the fact that specific kinds of people will get very genetically inclined with other people, but they won't like them. You know, eugenics. Or it's an illness. And I really don't think I need to explain why that's wrong if you have heard of any kind of homophobia before. It's not a mental illness. But we did get a good handful of positive responses to this one says, whoever drew the pride chalk, know that you are loved and you are beautiful, and anybody who is saying to get rid of it is an idiot. I'm glad we have this kind of representation on campus. And then the bottom response to that at the time was, if you think chalk on the sidewalk is going to change everyone's minds on accepting mental illnesses, I don't know what to tell you. Which proves that homophobia has never evolved past the point where it originally began. All of their arguments are, it's either a sin, which we did not see a lot of. It was mostly a lot of people talking about how it's a mental illness and how it's wrong, which kind of weird to downgrade a mental illness, but whatever. Or people were just saying that it's weird and it needs to be gotten rid of, and if they put up some weird far-right stuff, we would be going crazy. They're not gonna do anything. But yeah, there was a lot of this, a lot of bad, but there were a good few bit of good responses that had a lot of positive upvotes of people agreeing. A lot of this was anonymous, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of the response that we got. We cataloged a lot of it, and we are very glad that there were people on campus who agreed. Which button is it to? Is it the left or the right one? Right one?
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a sophomore music ed major here at UE. Throughout the semester, we had a few different kinds of fundraisers. We did some give back nights. We did some events. We looked for sponsors. We looked for local businesses that might donate. But our overall goal is to get 5,000 for the exhibit, because getting the quilts is about 1,500 total, 700 per quilt, and then whatever shipping and handling is, and then around 3,500 for the rest of the exhibit. So just getting the quilts is already 1,500. And then any extra funds that we get are gonna go towards J to Gay, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. Up here I put up some of the grants that we looked at. We have the Indiana Humanities webpage, and then the Lilly Scholars Network. So like I said, we had some give back nights. We had 4 of them. We had Chipotle, Panda Express, Panera, and BJ's. We looked at some of the grants like the Lilly Scholars Network, the Indiana Humanities, Gamma Mu Foundation. We looked for sponsors for both our podcasts, which we'll talk about later. And then we had a poetry night, which we'll also talk about a little bit later. With those give back nights, we did get some success. We started with 4 nights, and it was sort of to promote our cause and get our names out there, because this is our first semester of doing this project, so we wanted to get visibility within the community and on campus, spreading awareness for what we're doing, what the project actually is, and why it's important. And we actually had some people start to recognize the name after the first 2 flyers that we put up for the give back nights. And it's an easy way to start with little bits of money, which we did end up getting some money for. The process was really easy. It was all online, and our responses were really fast. We got approved instantly for Panera. So some successes we faced were we were approved for 4 out of the 5 that we applied for. We were only denied 1, and I believe that was Buffalo Wild Wings. We made $386 total from all of our fundraising events. We made $300 from the poetry night. We made $52 from Chipotle, and then $36, I believe, from BJ's. 34 from BJ's. And it sort of increased our presence on campus. Like I said, we had people start to recognize those flyers, and I talked to a few people that actually recognized our project in general. However, we did face some challenges with the give back nights and fundraising in general. We didn't make any money on 2 of the events. We didn't hit the minimum required to pay out for the give back nights. And we lost interaction because some of the events didn't get advertised as well as we wanted to. The flyers were put up a few days before or didn't get put on social media because there were just too many all at once, and we didn't space them out quite as much as we should have. Some of the grants that we looked at were either closed already or wouldn't apply until the future because they started with 1 year for the project, which our project is going to take longer than that, so we didn't meet those requirements for the grants, and we don't have any sponsor responses yet.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessie and I am a senior social justice major. So I want to talk a little bit about the involvement that we had with the Matthew 25 AIDS services. We had a couple representatives, they're called outreach and education specialists, come to our class and talk a little bit about not only the work that they do in the community, but how we can work to create like a moving and working partnership moving forward with this Change Lab. So to give a little bit of context about what Matthew 25 and what their services offer, they are a clinic that specializes in treating people who are living with HIV and AIDS, but they've really developed into this great catch-all nonprofit that really works to services the changing needs of individuals in the Evansville community. So they do have 4 branches of their nonprofit service, 1 based in Evansville and I think 3 others that are in Kentucky. But they've kind of branched out their services, and now they offer things such as like case management services. They have an in-house pharmacy and food pantry. They can assist people who might need transportation to doctor's visits. And on top of providing care for people living with HIV and AIDS, they do provide other services such as harm reduction materials and testing people for other common STIs. So I was fortunate enough over the summer to be able to intern with Matthew 25, which was just a very special experience for me. I really learned about the importance of kind of meeting people where they are in their life, because, you know, some of these people are a bit down on their luck in life. You really have to kind of cater your language to what different demographics will understand. We got to go to different outreach events in the community and just, you know, truthfully meet people where they are. So I wanted to be sure that I continued this relationship that I had built with the people I met over the summer, and have them come to class and talk a little bit about how we can partner moving forward. What also I learned recently was a little bit about the history of the development of Matthew 25. So Matthew 25 was established in 1996 by a woman named Cindy Burton. She was an RN in the 80s at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And in Evansville, she was really saddened by the fact that some of her colleagues in these local hospitals were just completely unwilling to treat people who were living with HIV or AIDS. So she actually started the Matthew 25 nonprofit right out of her own garage. And, you know, since it's expanded to everything I just described. So I think that is very special. When we had these outreach and education specialists come to class, I felt like it was very important for the kind of work that we're doing, especially considering that the AIDS Memorial Quilt is kind of like the centerpiece of all of our project, that we kind of all had like a working understanding of what HIV and AIDS are. So we had these education specialists come to our class, and they kind of just gave us a crash course on HIV and AIDS and also the services that Matthew 25 provides. So to define HIV stands for human immunodeficiency syndrome, and really this is an acquired virus that starts to attack your immune system and makes it very hard to fight off different like infections that you might acquire for whatever reason. If left untreated, HIV can develop into AIDS, which is the advanced stage of HIV, and without proper treatment, AIDS can be deadly. So this is like a very recent development that we've been able to help people continue to live a healthy and fulfilling life after they've been given an AIDS diagnosis. It is no longer a death sentence, which is great. So while the education specialists were here, we learned about that. We got to look at like an example diagram of what it looks like on a like microscopic level of what these HIV cells are doing to your bloodstream, and just working to like attack the healthy cells that would otherwise fight off those infections. Additionally, we worked through some different like myths about HIV and AIDS, because some of these are like lingering stigmas from the 80s that have not been fully resolved in modern day. So some of these lingering myths include that like HIV is a gay disease, and it only impacts people who are in the LGBT community. There's a stigma that these people are somehow dirty and undeserving of treatment, and that this is like a self-inflicted illness, which those we all know are not true. But that's the kind of thing that they work through when Matthew 25 goes out into the community. They do the same exact like debunking the stereotypes kind of thing. The reality about HIV and AIDS is that it can affect anyone. It really does not discriminate. If you are sexually active, you are at risk for HIV. But we learned that it's not transmitted by touch, and that ultimately everyone is deserving of care if they do contract HIV. We also learned a little bit about some of the treatments that are available for HIV, such as PEP and PrEP, and different antiretroviral therapies that have emerged in recent years. Matthew 25 is very dedicated to helping people reach a U=U status, which stands for undetectable equals untransmittable. And that means that if you can get your viral load down to a certain point, that they shouldn't be able to detect the virus in your bloodstream anymore, thus it shouldn't be able to be transmitted to others. But yeah, we learned all about that. We also learned about some of the ways that Matthew 25 goes about education and programming in the community. They go out to different facilities such as rehab centers and shelters in the local communities, and again, just trying to reach as many people as they can with their services. And then at the very end of their presentation, we talked a little bit about some of the harm reduction materials that they offer as well. So HIV can also be transmitted through like shared needles or drug equipment. So of course, Matthew 25 is not encouraging people to use drugs by any means, but they do have a lot of different equipment available. So if you were a drug user, for instance, they do have some materials available for like you and someone else who you might be using with to be able to use those items safely. And then finally, working with Matthew 25 moving forward. At the end of their presentation, they just seemed so ecstatic about the kind of work that we're doing in this Change Lab. So they were very adamant that we continue to keep them up to date with the work that we're doing. And I think it's really important that this Change Lab does not lose connection with Matthew 25 because, I'm so sorry, that's my alarm. This is not a good look, guys. Didn't know. But I thought it was very important that we did not lose this connection with Matthew 25 because they are doing the exact work that would have been vital in the 80s to prevent this crisis from happening. So we talked a little bit about what that partnership could look like moving forward, especially with the exhibit. I think it would be cool if, honestly, they had a table that looked just like this set in our exhibit, that not only has pamphlets that talks about HIV and Matthew 25's services, but maybe also having some like little freebies that visitors to the exhibit can grab, whether that be like, a stress ball or some condoms or some candy. But I think it'd be really great to have a working relationship with Matthew 25 and have them have a presence at our exhibit as well.
Hello, my name is Jonathan. I'm a junior social justice major, and I wanted to talk to you guys about audio and visual productions that we've been working on and putting out on campus. And we're doing this to use our voices to tell the stories of the past, present, and future, because as much as this project is about reminding people of the past and illuminating the voices of the past, we're also very aware that what we're doing right now will be history one day. So, podcasting is one of our biggest ventures right now, and it has the goal of answering the question, who gets to tell the story? Because for the longest time, the story wasn't told, and now we have to kind of untangle it and grapple with the fact that how would these people tell the story? How do we tell the story? How would people of the future tell the story? We also wanted to explore different methods of research, different methods of archiving, because we've done so much reading through past Crescent articles, through past Link years, and really trying to understand how do we communicate everything that we found. And some of the different things we've been doing with it is doing interviews, like with Dr. Laura Becker, who's here, and also Dr. Reverend John Britton. He was one of the past chaplains of the school, but we've also, outside of interviews, done roundtable discussions about the different events we've done. So like the chalking, we did a discussion where we kind of debriefed on what we felt about it, going into it, after it, seeing the backlash. We also talked to some directors and participants of Pride Camp, where we talked about what Pride Camp is, how it impacts the people who participate in it, how it impacts the community. So our first interview was with Dr. Laura Becker. Ignore that little thing. It was supposed to be gone. But just imagine it in your head. So when we walked into the interview, we had a few questions. We know she worked on this campus for a while, and she's had a very big impact on the queer community on this campus. And some of the stuff that we asked about is the earliest LGBTQ+ campus clubs, organizations, kind of when they started, how they started, and she was very integral to the foundation of them and keeping them going, especially when the campus wasn't as friendly to queer people as it is now. We also asked about safe space stickers, because if you didn't know, she was vital into founding the safe space stickers on this campus and creating safe spaces for students and faculty alike. Not only were these stickers visual representations of that, but there was a lot of education and training that went into making staff aware and faculty aware of what these stickers do. They're not just decoration, but they're a statement that students, whoever they may be, are safe with these faculty. And when we were talking about this, towards the end of the interview, we started talking about like what it meant to leave a legacy and how powerful that is, especially when we are archiving history. And I think it's safe to say, and we all agreed in the interview, that Dr. Becker left a profound legacy on this campus. And we didn't quite understand what archiving and talking about this history would do, until not only she got emotional, but we all got emotional, realizing just how profound it is to look at the past, especially as a person who retired and is now looking back on their career, and to realize that not only was her history visible, but it was still important and it was still being talked about. And that was just one of our more powerful interviews, as well as Dr. Reverend John Britton's interview. As I said, he was a past chaplain at the university, and he was a character. He was really fun to talk to, and he loved to tell stories. And some of the stories he told us about was the first Pride Club, before the organization really existed. It was just a group of students who would go to a resident director's apartment, meet for a little while, and then leave because they couldn't be visible on this campus. And another one of the stories that he told us was the relationship between William Ridgway and Melvin Peterson. So if you didn't know about it, Ridgway and Peterson were more than just colleagues, more than just friends. And not only were they that, they were significant names on this campus, and they still are. They gave us Harlexton, they gave us the gallery that we have, they gave us pretty much this entire campus because they loved this community. And when he told us that, we were kind of floored because these were names that we hear all the time, and this was something that we didn't know about them. We didn't even know that they were necessarily connected. And when we found this out, we went down a rabbit hole of how do we talk about this? What does this mean for our campus? And how does this impact the way that we view our campus and the queer community on this campus? And we kind of came to a conclusion that it's something that we do need to talk about and honor, which we're going to talk about later as a future plan of honoring their legacy by passing it on to other people. We just thought it was an extremely important part of the interview. And for our roundtables, these were a little more fun, a little more student-centric. Like I said, we talked about the chalking event that we did. We talked about programs like UW's Pride Camp. And we thought it was really important to record these conversations because we could have had them without a camera or without a microphone in front of us. But we thought it was really important to record these conversations because, like I said, one day this will be history. And one day people are going to want to know what we thought about what we did, or if there was backlash, how did we feel about the backlash? How did we handle it? Did we feel pride? Did we feel shame? And recording these helped us create living, active archives, especially for the future semesters of this class. And talking about specifically the chalking helped us reflect on how we were showcasing queer voices and how we were discussing topics like activism, belonging, and hope of the future, especially as we continue to bring up in this specific political climate and in the way that queer people are being portrayed in the media, in everyday society and conversations. And having these roundtables also is a great way to remind us why the project is so important, not only to the community, but also to us. And less of the audio media, but more of the visual is I had the opportunity to write an article for The Crescent, which is our campus magazine that's been going on for decades. And I wrote about the impact specifically of our chalking, but more about what it meant for the project and what it meant for me to be involved in it. And it was really a chance to get eyes on this project and offer a different lens to people who might not have understood why we did what we did and why it was so powerful to us. And it was also a way for me and on behalf of the entire course to encourage people to get involved, whether you are part of the community or not part of the community. This course we wanted to really stress is for everyone, and is for anyone who believes that there isn't one way to be.
Yeah, so I continue to be Lily, and I continue to be blinded by the projector. So one of the really cool events that we got the chance to do this semester was a queer poetry and storytelling night. And this kind of started with a fundraising goal. We knew, after these kind of mixed results from the Give Back Nights that we wanted to put on a fundraising event. And the other thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to connect the different generations of the queer community here in Evansville. So this is something that I think might not be super well known to people outside the community. But one of the lasting effects of AIDS is that there is this kind of divide in the LGBTQ community. And it's not like, hostile, but there is a cultural divide between people my age-ish and younger, where, our lifespans did not overlap with the height of the AIDS epidemic. We do not remember a time without these amazing antiretroviral therapies that, keep people living to, normal lifespans. We do not remember a time without PrEP. We do not remember a time where people were dying regularly within our community because there were no treatments available. People in the older generation are not so lucky. And, for many of them, they're still living with the trauma of losing, in many cases, their entire friend groups. So we wanted to find a way to kind of bridge this divide a little bit and get people sharing their stories. We were very lucky to have Your Brother's Bookstore, which is a bookstore downtown on Main Street. They are lovely. Go check them out. It's so cool inside. I love their decor. This is an image from our poetry night. Here's me, kind of getting up on the microphone. I'm in 2 pixels there, but so it was really cool. We had 8 storytellers there. We're really happy. We got several UE students who, I recognize, and they were sharing their stories and their poetry. And we also had Kelly Kors. If you don't know him, he is the author of Out in Evansville. And he read an excerpt from that book where he talked about his experience living through the AIDS epidemic, losing the majority of his friend group. We also had this poster presentation. You can see it here, and you can see it here. That was describing our project and trying to get donations from it, and we ended up raising $300, which we exceeded our expectations.
Alright. So, again, I'm Isaiah, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about our website that we've been working on. So, this picture right here, this is just the main, how do I put it, title area, I guess. So, if you scroll down, there is a section that tells us a little bit about ourselves and our project, what we're trying to do. And then here's the portion that showcases our events that we have coming up, where here we were talking about the fundraiser nights that we had, BJ's Restaurant Fundraiser. It was on October 23rd. It states all the information for it, and then we've got a couple features on there where you could click on this little button right here. It would pull up a flyer that you would just take inside, and it would have everything that you need. We were just talking about our poetry and storytelling night, which was also over there. If you clicked on that little button, it would give you a Google Maps link for anybody who's not from Evansville. They might not know where the location is. And this continues to be updated as we have more events coming up.
So on our website, hi, I'm still Haley, by the way. So, sorry, I got ahead of myself. So on our website, we have a timeline of all the previous campus events that have come before now, and as well as all of the events that we are currently doing and what we are going to do in the future. And this is specifically because we need to catalog it somewhere, so we might as well catalog it here with our own prospects and actions in order to keep this history preserved, as well as what we are doing currently to keep fighting the fight for true equality on this campus so that everyone can feel safe.
Oh,
I know. Yeah.
there should have been pictures. You know what?
Yeah, there should have been pictures, but they just weren't there.
Yeah, so
Just-
I think,
Yeah.
some of our edits seem to have gotten lost
Yeah.
by the internet.
Yeah.
Apologies.
There should have been some pictures of some presidents.
Just
but I
put
just
them
can't
in your
remember.
mind and just
Yeah.
picture,
Yeah,
picture just a
just-
little
yeah.
timeline going downwards.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to give an introduction for some of our plans for the future, which will be passed around to each of us. Starting off, we've got our USI and UE crossover event, which we thought would be a really good idea to kind of bridge the gap between the rivalry of the two different schools. Because, for instance, we were talking about Yik Yak earlier. There's a lot of people that will go on there and almost trash talk the other school, and it'll go back and forth. And even some of my friends that I have from USI, I hear people talking about how, well, I'm not going to go into detail, but they'll talk about our campus in the same way that we'll talk about theirs. That's not really something we want. We're all in the same city. Let's come together, be a community. So we wanted to host some form of public event with the general population of Evansville as well, hopefully, to come in. We would like to hopefully invite Ivy Tech as a possible opportunity, because I did some research and it doesn't actually look like they have any organizations that are related to our project, so maybe we could help expand some of their resources and give them opportunities just like ours. We want to connect with some of the other students, get some outside opinions on some of the things that we're doing, hopefully expand onto them, and we'd be able to, well, like I said, just come together as a whole town, people outside of Evansville. Yeah.
Is it?
Oh,
Oh,
we
oh,
have.
that's me.
We
They
have.
got flipped.
Yeah.
Are we not bringing it together?
Should be good. We will. It's just part of it.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the development of our J to Gay trip. So J to Gay is modeled after Journey to Justice, which is a civil rights bus tour that goes down to some of the southern states and visits these historic landmarks that kind of tell the story, working through the times of enslavement all the way up through the civil rights movement. So Journey to Justice has been affectionately called J to J, just for shortness sake. But Dr. Stein kind of developed this idea for a journey to queer justice. And we were talking about it in class one day, and I was like, Dr. Stein, we were missing out on a key opportunity to call this trip J to Gay. So that's how the name was born. But this trip is going to be very, very cool. It will give students a chance to learn and explore queer history in the sites where it happened. We plan to visit sites of activism and history in New York City. And some of the sites that we plan on visiting include iconic places like the Stonewall Inn, Christopher Park, the New York City AIDS Memorial Site, the Lesbian Her Story Archives, you name it, we're gonna go. It's gonna be great. Ultimately, this trip will really help with archival research and learning how to tell this story here on our own campus. So we kind of want to learn how other organizations go about researching, archiving, and preserving history so that we can do the same and handle the information sensitively and confidently. What's great is that ultimately this trip will be an opportunity for students to create some sort of public-facing object, maybe a poster, maybe a zine, that can be archived or even displayed in our final exhibition. And really, this trip isn't just for funsies. It is a trip and it is change making in action. Students will learn how to research and archive this material, and it will really help to strengthen and shape the outcome of our exhibit. And what's great also is that because it's linked to this Change Lab class, this trip is meant to unite change makers from all majors and all backgrounds. So this trip is truly going to be change making in action, where we learn how to honor the past and shape the future. Yeah. Aside from our several other goals, and that's what I like about this lab. We have so much happening. Our central goal is to have these the quilts come in and to create our exhibit. So our quilts, as we have shown, we are currently in the process of getting them reserved and shipped here, and in order to do so, we had an application process, and so it was basically a whole bunch of like logistical questions, as well as a bunch of long answer questions about like why are you doing this, what is the purpose, and so we were able to complete all of that, and we got the okay a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so that's awesome. Yeah. So now what we're going to be shifting our focus on is raising money so we can get them here, as well as creating our exhibit.
Hold on, next, please. Oh, this went through. Okay, so in our practice presentation, this was the same day that we actually got the okay. We were asked for a size comparison because I mentioned that these quilt blocks were huge. So here's me, or rather my transition goals, and here is the size of one of these quilt blocks. They are 12 feet by 12 feet wide.
Oh, wow.
They are huge. And so each of these blocks has several squares. The exact number depends on the layout. So there will be our quilt squares within, they're spread across 2 different blocks. So there will be also a bunch of other people's quilt squares that are kind of attached there. So one of the things that we ran into, I'm going to explain what this is in a second. One of the things that we ran into was, ideally, these are supposed to be hung vertically. Unfortunately, there are very few places on campus that have 12-foot ceilings. So we had to get a little bit creative, trying to figure out how we could actually display these quilt blocks. So this is me doing a cloth simulation in a 3D modeling program called Blender. I do 3D modeling as a hobby. Trying to figure out a way to display these things. Eventually what we landed on is we decided it would be nice to do it in the Melvin Peterson Gallery. With the connection between Melvin Peterson and Ridgeway, we thought that would be really nice. The ceilings aren't quite high enough, so we actually asked for special permission to display the quilts horizontally. I did some research based on ADA guidelines to figure out how high we would have to display them, or rather how low we would have to display them in order for wheelchair users to actually be able to see them well. So we're still looking on sourcing a pedestal or a pair of pedestals for this. But we do have a plan to be able to display these in the Melvin Peterson Gallery. This is from like an hour ago. You should after this, by the way, mostly unrelated, come check out the pottery sale there, because that is very cool.
Hello, it's me again. Alright, so as mentioned before in the interview with Dr. Reverend John Burton, I think that's right, we learned about the relationship between the two, and we already know that Ridgeway and Peterson have such a grand impact on the campus, but now we know that there is an even bigger impact on the queer community because they are such big names on this campus. And not that it got erased completely, but none of us really knew about this relationship, and it almost got erased within the students. Some of the faculty seem to know, but students don't. And that seems like something that's really important to the campus that should be acknowledged. And so we sort of came up with this idea of an award given to a community member who had such a great impact on the campus and the Evansville community, to sort of remember them as well as Ridgway and Peterson. And it's sort of that idea of they didn't get recognized, so we're going to recognize them now as well as somebody in the community and keep that memory going on.
So along with the award, we've also been playing around with the idea of something permanent, because we're bringing these quilts back, but we don't get them forever. We get them for a few weeks and then we have to send them back, and maybe we'll remember, maybe we won't. Hopefully our archiving will help and people will remember them. But we wanted to do something more, because the quilts are a great show of the queer community belonging on this campus. But what happens when they go away, and what if people forget again? And we don't want people to forget again that we're here, that we've contributed so much as people, as students, as faculty. And our ideas are something permanent, whether it be a statue, a space on campus, a dedication to a bench, something to tell the campus community that we're still here. And I put a picture of the basketball team's memorial in here, because I think it has a really good sentiment, and it's the same with the interfaith statue that we have outside. It's just a visual token of belonging and solidarity, and it's something that we would want to dedicate not only to this project, but to queer students and faculty of the past, of the present, and of the future. And we just want to keep the memory going.
Okay, so overall, we wanted to go around and kind of explain why this project is so important to us personally, because we have listed all of these reasons, like such as inclusivity and remembrance, and this is all important. But I think as a member of this project, our own personal reasons are also important as well. And so in my experience, having the our opportunity to make a difference on campus and to help empower a community is so important. When I first got here, I was so unsure about what I wanted to get involved in, and what even like I myself could do in the face of like so many issues or so many things that like need attention. This was such a great outlet for me, and I'm so glad I got to work on everything and meet all of these lovely individuals. So, yeah.
Okay, so I tell this story every time that someone asks me why this project is important to me, but I still think that it holds up. So for those of you who don't know me, this is my first semester at UE. I moved here from Florida, which is crazy, but I moved here for a really important reason, and it's because I was forced out of my education in Florida. That sounds dramatic, and it kind of is. In Florida, they cut a lot of programs that have to do with women's studies, inclusion, diversity, to the point where they banned the word woman in schools, and they banned the words queer and gay and transgender. And that was where my studies were gearing up towards. And I had the choice to either pursue the degree I'd started school in, which was a business degree, or continue my passion that I was just discovering for activism. And I decided it wasn't worth it to bail on everything I was passionate about. So I moved up here kind of as a Hail Mary, hoping that maybe something would stick. And that's when I found the social justice department, and I've been so in love with it ever since. And this project makes why I left feel full circle. And it's given me a lot of hope when I thought it was lost.
So, hi again, my name's Isaiah, again. You can see my beautiful face right there in that picture. But I would say my personal experience with this project was kind of eye-opening in a way, because I'm an Evansville native, is what I should start off with. So living in Indiana, Evansville specifically, I hadn't really had much interaction with anyone else from the LGBTQ community, which kind of does stick with that quote-unquote stereotype that we have for the state. I don't know, it was just nice to be able to work with people that come from the same community as me and from outside of it. Yeah, I guess you could say it was life-changing. Don't let it boost your egos, guys. But yeah, it's just been a wonderful overall experience. That's really all I have to be honest.
So I also came from Florida in an area that is less than inclusive. Luckily, I went to a high school that was very open and had a large queer community that was mostly supported by the administration. But kind of after leaving that and going to a community college where that was completely lost, I didn't know what to expect in coming to Evansville in general after transferring here from that community college. But being able to join something like this was amazing, an amazing opportunity that I didn't expect. Dr. Stein kind of didn't really approach me. I approached Dr. Stein after one of her social justice classes last semester that I took, and she explained the idea of this project, and I didn't really know what to expect, but this has made much bigger of an impact on me than I thought it was going to. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do this project.
So, Dr. Stein came to me, like late spring with this project, when it was kind of in its infancy. And then later, this was like over the summer, she, found out about the quilts and told me. And my first reaction was like, here in Evansville, Indiana, I was kind of shocked that we had done this here, and 35 years ago? That was really surprising to me. And so I was kind of instantly really wanting to dig deeper into this. We started the semester doing all of this archival research in the Crescent. And that was really striking to me, especially how much things have changed, but how much they haven't. When we had the Yik Yak talking drama, going on, and we're in the midst of that, I kept thinking back to how similar these kind of back and forths were to the back and forths that were happening over issues of condom distribution, of queer acceptance in the early 90s. I'm also a math major. I feel often like a bit of the odd one out, being you know, there are queer people in math, but not in the same density as in some of the humanities. So I really try and look for and cherish these opportunities. And also, it's just so cool getting to actually like do something and then see it happen.
Yeah, so in short, I would say that the two most important things that I've taken from this Change Lab is the concept of community building, but also on a personal level, I'd say confidence building. Community building, I mean, look at how happy we all are in this picture. Like, I mean that so genuinely. Like, I love the people in this class. When we see each other on campus, we always say hello, we always catch up with each other. So, you know, that's the first class experience that I've had on this campus where it doesn't feel like a class, it feels like a true community of friends who are working towards a common goal. So that's been a really invaluable thing from my perspective. And then again, on a more personal level, the confidence building aspect that has come out of this class has just been transformational for me. Let's see. Yeah, I come from a town in northern Indiana that wasn't super accepting of the queer community. So, you know, not only has my time on the Evansville campus been really impactful for me in shaping who I am today, but this class especially really gave me an outlet to explore my full identity. And I also kind of found a love for podcasting a little bit. That's something that was completely out of left field for me. I believe it or not, don't like talking a whole lot. But I feel like I've gotten substantially better at it, especially this semester as I've done so many podcasts and so many presentations. So I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities that this class has given me.
Yeah, and I found the love for measuring ceilings.
And
so,
you're great at it.
yeah.
And you should continue to do so.
Hi, so sorry for my blunder earlier. I get really nervous when I don't know what's going on. So, I guess I'll open with, this is my first experience of a Change Lab, and what a Change Lab, man. I mean, it's been fun. I'm glad that I met everyone here. Everyone is, it feels like a community in itself, and I'm very appreciative of that. And it feels like I have a bunch of friends, even though I kind of don't, because we're all just acquaintances. But we're like friend acquaintances. It's weird. It's like people you meet at
I think that's called friends.
Yeah.
whatever words you feel comfortable using. I will not force any upon you. So, but I was very nervous going into this because I had no idea what this was outside of, it's something that's very, like, reading it on self-service was very confusing because it's a lot of words, and in that order, I had no idea what they meant. So I was like, oh no, I don't know what this is. And I've never had this professor before. What do I do? So I went in, and it was great. Everyone was really welcoming and accepting, and that's kind of the vibe that I think we need more of on this campus, because when I showed up here, because I'm from Kentucky, and we're okay. And it was a very different experience going from my high school to here, because wowee, a lot of the community's a lot more pronounced and a lot more visible, and I love that, and that's amazing. And I'm so glad that people up here are so safe around each other. And I think that's what made it so much more surprising reading all the YIGYAC responses, because I took all the screenshots for like 3 days before it stopped, and it was really surprising to me that there were that many people on this campus that were so disgusted and upset about people just living their lives however they wanted. And I think in that moment, it really like cemented for me that this was something important that I needed to be a part of, that I don't want to like sound like all those stereotypical religious people, but it really feels like I was put in this room for a reason, and I'm so glad that I was, because it feels like I'm a part of history in a way that I'm comfortable with. I don't feel like I'm going out and being part of a rally that I'd be in danger of. I feel like I'm contributing in a way that's comfortable for me while still making an impact, and at the end of the day, I think that's what we all want to do, is make an impact in a way that we're comfortable with, that's still substantial. And I mean, heck, the freaking state motto for Kentucky is united we stand, divided we fall, and I don't think that that's any more applicable than here, because if we're all together, we will not fall. We can't. I'm done.
Very nicely done, everybody. I'm gonna open it up to the floor for any questions of the.
Keep standing, keep
questions or
standing.
comments of the group.
Standing.
You can all sit if you'd like.
I have a question for all of you. You guys told me what you got out of it, but I want the most memorable through this project and the Change Lab, what you will take out of it and go forward with it. So what impacted you the most out of research and all that has changed you for UE?
I think for me, it was, hearing like all of these projects, that started out small and ballooned into something really amazing. The AIDS Quilt was like that. It started with, people just, almost spontaneously writing the names of their loved ones who had died of AIDS on placards. And it turned into one of the slides that the internet ate, talked about like the statistics of that. There are over 50,000 panels dedicated to over 110,000 people today. These, and we see this pattern repeat as we look back through history of these things that start small and turn into these huge movements and end up making change.
That's what you guys are here for,
Yeah.
is to make change.
And I think too, something that I really got out of it, and because of the environment that I moved from, I didn't think that my voice was as big as it was. And participating in this, and not only participating, but being able to pick what I really enjoyed and spearhead that, and watching everyone do that as well, I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but I think, at least for myself, I not only found my voice, but there's a lot more, like Jesse said, confidence in that voice.
I would say I most enjoyed the moments of like queer joy that came out of this course, because we talk so much about like the solemn kind of attitudes that have been present throughout history with regards to the queer community. But I mean, take for example like our chalking event. If you take the Yik Yak backlash out of it, we had a great time doing that project. Like we were all laughing and talking and listening to music and hanging out, and it was such a great time. And I think that queer joy is something that is not celebrated enough, and it's not seen as something that's especially radical or important, when in reality it really is. Because that sense of community building and enjoyment that you get from being yourself is like where the community stems out of, because it has to be rooted in like hope and optimism. And I think that was very important.
I think that what I most got out of this is that despite the overwhelming appearance of societal acceptance, there are still always fights that need to be won, regardless of where we are. There is always instances of homophobia and transphobia that need to be uprooted everywhere we go, and ensuring that we uproot them and don't leave anything behind, but know how to uproot them every single time is something important that I want to remember, but I also want to make sure that everyone in the future remembers how to do. So that's something, we don't go back to the dark ages, essentially.
Exactly.
In my opinion, I think overall it was just excellent to be a part of something where we had a common goal and everyone was motivated. Like the being in college and like working on like a bunch of stuff, it becomes increasingly evident that like the simple concept of that is so rare. And so it was just awesome, and like something I'm gonna take away is that like the actual change is like the actual attainment of one's goals is not a dream, and it can be possible.
To me, I think the biggest impact there's been on me is that this project is supported by the university. Like coming from a place where I've done small projects like this. Like I've put up posters around my high school campus with links to services, to support groups and stuff like that. But I was doing that on my own, and I almost had to do it in secret. Admin took down the posters and stuff like that. But this is supported by the university, and that is such an astonishing idea to me that not only is it supported by one professor, it is supported by other professors. There are other students that are like asking about the project and stuff like that, and that's great. That's amazing. It's not something you have to do in secret. It's not something that you have to hide away and not take the credit for.
I kind of want to add on to what you just said, actually, because based on the YIGYAC responses that we got to the chalking event that we showed earlier, this is a liberal arts campus. Was that how we would put it?
Yes.
So, so I just needed to make sure. But the hatred that we've seen on there, it does kind of go back to like how you were talking about the campus actual school support that we have is like a big player here, because like I said, I haven't really had my own community that I've been able to talk to. It's just been me kind of my whole life, and I've always been able to talk to my mom. I'm thankful for her. She's welcoming and accepting, but there's just that level that I can't really communicate with her because that's my mom. I don't want to make her like worried about myself. Sorry, I kind of just lost my train of thought. Yeah, honestly, I would just say the school support system. But yeah, we'll just.
Thank you.
I have a question, but first I want to compliment you guys on a couple specific things. I really appreciated the way that you were approaching it from different methods, and accessibility was something that was brought up a couple of times, and that you're doing great record keeping. I think those are three things that are really going to contribute to that sustainability aspect, and I'm not sure that people always plan for those things. So, just like for someone that has had very little idea of what you're doing other than at the very beginning of the semester, I was very impressed by that. And then the question that I have you done much about looking into the ethics of queer archiving specifically? Something, I'm not from this area, but I did grow up in Kentucky mostly. But I say that because something like the Peterson and Ridgway relationship is very interesting. But there's a lot of ambiguity you might come with other local people about. Were they out or not in the time that they were active? And like, have you done much research into those kind of ethical dilemmas?
Yeah, so that's actually a conversation that we had a couple days after we'd found that out. Because at first we were like, whoa, we didn't know this. We don't even know how to begin to process this. But once we processed it, we sat down, and I kind of wish we had recorded this because it was a really great conversation. But we did have to talk about, do we tell people? Do we bring it up? Or do we just kind of let it stay as quiet as they kept it? Because they didn't tell people. It was an if you know, you know. But they also didn't quite keep it a secret. And part of our solution to archiving this is we're going to be as honest as John Britton was to us and talk about it. But to really honor it and communicate it with the community, we thought that the Ridgway Peterson Award was a really great way to honor that, because it's focused on what you give back to your community, because they loved the Evansville community so much and they loved UE so much. And we want to honor people who want to continue that legacy and want to provide to the queer community on UE's campus. And I think that was the best way we could communicate their relationship and stuff like that. And moving forward, I think just the same conversations of how do we talk about this will keep going.
Yeah, I think it did come up though that there, is like, it is, from what I understand, and academic field of study that there are resources that we can draw upon for those discussions. I think with, you know, Ridgeway and Peterson, it was, you know, enough of an open secret that it is, you know, it does not seem to be an issue.
I actually have to chime in here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation yesterday with Abigail Whirling, who's the development director, about this, right?
Yeah.
Because when you all started talking about it, I thought, and I scheduled this weeks ago, but I finally, like, her
Yeah.
schedule, you know, I've been on her schedule for a while. So I had this conversation with her, told her about, you know, your work, and, I think it's probably not a direction that we're gonna be able to go. I mean, not that somebody's gonna stop us, really, but this question's about ethics. Because her sense of it was, and she actually knew Peterson, she didn't really know Ridgeway, was that they were very, very, sorry?
Very quiet people.
Well,
With
not
their
just quiet
personal
people,
stuff.
but that they were very intentional about not presenting themselves as a couple. To the point where even though they lived together, they would have mail from that office sent to each of them separately and one at a PO box, for example. So even kind of feeling from her perspective at least, she was a little bit more hesitant to sort of even really acknowledge them as a couple, where I think, you know, I don't think we have to not acknowledge them, right? But at the same time, she thought this probably wouldn't have been their thing. So I think, you know, when the podcasts come out, I still think we can use John's interview, because it's like a part of it, and he talks about his, you know, knowledge and understanding of them and the attitudes on campus. I think that's probably fine. But I think highlighting them through this, like an award kind of thing, probably won't really be something that we would pursue. So I think,
I'm
you know,
squiggling in my seat, and I literally found myself sitting on my hands and went, well, there's a metaphor, so I'm gonna say something.
yeah,
Understand, to understand this better, go anthropology. Look at where they walked through in their life.
Yeah,
Because Dr. Ridgeway was a doctor for the military, for the Navy. This
He
was
would've been kicked
before
out.
Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
yeah,
This was, wow, you're gonna lose everything if something comes out. They were people of great wealth. You could get some privilege of, we're not gonna say that because they are of great wealth and we want their wealth, right?
Yeah.
That kind of, it seems a little shady, but there is a respect to keeping how they would like to be portrayed, but also the social culture around all of it and why might be worth saying. I would encourage you to tell LGBT plus students on campus.
Yeah.
It's not that you are a gay couple and you have to you're pushed to the side or you have to stay secret. That's a great, amazing thing. I mean, when I found out as a faculty here, going, well, cool, let's go. I mean, I didn't like, they're gay, but I was like, wow, it shouldn't be so hard to do things for the community because you could just say, well, what about them?
yeah.
You could I could use I had it kind of, I didn't realize this at the time, but in the back of my head of, I got an ace up the sleeve because I can use them as well, if you're gonna cast us out, you gotta cast all stones, right? But I think it's an important story for people to know. I would actually encourage you to go into the sociology of where they were and what their time and because each of us has a story based on what we've experienced in our lives.
That was kind of a leading question. I meant my specialty is queer archiving, so I'm sorry.
Oh,
But
no,
I
we're
was very curious to
very
know if
happy-
you've approached that.
We're very
because,
happy though, and it's, you know.
like you said though, there are resources. So I was just more trying to see had you already found those or not. And I'm wondering if you connected with Invisible Histories at all, which is a queer archive specifically that works in the South. And they've been trying to expand their reach for a while, and I bet they would be interested in your project.
Well, like 3 miles north of the Ohio is a great start, so that we
What was the great
should.
start? I'm sorry.
I said like 3 miles north of the Ohio is a great start if
Oh.
they're trying to reach out the south. I don't think, we do have we will, put that, we have like a Blackboard wiki going that we, are gonna be moving semester to semester, so we will.
No, we won't.
What?
So both of Max's points, right? So the award, which we did have those
Yeah.
conversations,
I
right?
think it's a beautiful
So-
sentiment. I really love the
And I
idea.
think figuring out how to keep that alive within the LGBTQ community, because your reaction to it I wasn't here the week that they found that out, because I had some issues with my mom, but they were all like, you know, it meant a lot to you, it meant a lot to you. So I don't wanna take that away from students, but, so we have to figure that out. So that point, you know, I've been sitting here all class 2 saying, yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about that, cause I just had that meeting yesterday. But the record keeping thought I had this great system with the wikis on Blackboard, and we just got an email today that Blackboard is getting rid of the classical Blackboard, and the new one doesn't have the wiki feature.
Alright, we
So-
should download them onto a thumb drive stat in case the servers go
Well,
down. we lose it.
I filled out,
Oh my gosh,
I talked to
like,
Leslie, who's
years
the
ago.
I was gonna say,
Blackboard
that was
person.
your aide, so it's like.
And I filled out a form, I talked to her about this, so they're gonna help figure out what to do, but it's like, we had this system, and now it's like,
Right.
it was just gonna be copied from you know, cause you can copy it, not anymore. So we have a semester and they're gonna help us figure it out. So we have worked very hard on keeping records,
Yeah.
in addition to the website, the Blackboard. So, and we will keep them somehow, but we got a little bit of a.
Honestly, I think that this could be like kind of a hidden benefit because, I like the idea that Blackboard might somehow lose our data has been like weighing on me, and I've been like, we should have this like in some sort of more permanent storage where we're not relying on someone else's servers.
Right, so that'll be a conversation, I think next semester we'll have to work on this.
Yeah.
And again, you could consider connecting it to the library archives as well, because we have a little bit more slight sway than the Change Lab by itself.
Yeah.
Not much, we don't have much, I wish I could promise more than that, but that might be another way to kind of maintain the files over time, is to connect them as a collection within the archives, as another option. The other thing is, I don't know if you guys know about the Carter Johnson Leather Library, which is based out of Newburgh. It is the largest kink library, I think in the world, and they were.
Are you?
Indiana?
There
I
are
love
satellite
this
locations.
town.
in
How
We
is-
never
how
talk
is
big
this
about
not-
ourselves.
No.
How did I not hear about this?
Well, the reason
Wow.
why I ask is their librarian is really awesome and does a lot of outreach as far as like community archiving. So that
Yeah.
might be another resource is to
That's
reach out to
right.
them and be like, we're trying to start like a similar community project. So that could be another resource nearby that I wasn't sure if you'd tapped into.
And you hadn't heard of it either.
I hadn't heard of it. I used to drive students up to IU because there's a fantastic Kinsey Library up there. It's got crazy stuff.
But I think part of it is that library is entirely volunteer run, so it's like, it is more homegrown, but it is phenomenal, so that might be
So
something
that's like,
to model.
we're gonna go, we've already connected with the Lesbian Her Story Archives in New York City, and that's entirely volunteer as well. So they're gonna let us come and we're gonna volunteer for them, and we're gonna do some research. So I'm kind of excited about that project. But what's become clear is that there's so many, I knew this was like a multifaceted kind of project with the quilts, because you had to find all this stuff, but it's like, the depth is even deeper, right? And the breadth of where hopefully we'll be able to go, assuming students stay interested, right?
Yeah, this Change Lab has had 2 taglines in order: scope creep, technical difficulties.
And in order, in the whole line of cataloging, I did promise that I was gonna go through my old Pride Files to find more names for folks for you to talk to. I did sign up for another class next semester, so I'm not gonna lose my cloud as quickly as I thought, but I put a note for myself.
I also just appreciate you sharing your personal stories, because I think when you mentioned earlier about kind of a generational disconnect, I think a lot of that is older queer folks have grown up in a world where they had to keep things very separate, which I think ties back to the Peterson Ridgeway situation as well. And I think that freedom to be out is still relatively new. But something I wanted to point out is I fled this area as a teen specifically because it was so bad then. And I moved here on purpose again. So I think there has been a lot more positive change than you may even realize, even within your own lifetimes. So I loved that you were already thinking of that. Because you guys had to flee here and that sucks. But like, that could change too, and maybe you'd be able to go back someday. Whether you want to or not is a different story, but change does happen, it's just slow, so.
I had some parting thoughts, cause, I was feeling scared for the scared I was hearing from you. But I like your talk about hope and optimism. Okay, here comes the tears. Good, I knew that was gonna happen. At least I claimed it. But the power of voices, the total power of voices, and in a, you know, my time here, I listened to the voices of students and just was there to say, sure, let's try that. Be that for everyone else. Just try it. You can hear no, and that's, as long as that doesn't hurt you, keep going. Because you'll hear a yes, you'll get a, oh, why can't we do it this way? Or why can't we try that in a different way? There's a lot of power to, just, Yik Yak has its power because it's anonymous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Their voices are bolder because you don't know who they are.
and I meant to mention, and I think I forgot, I said that there was like kind of a striking similarity in the pattern
Sure.
between the Yik Yaks and these old like Crescent editorials. There was one key difference. People put their names on the Crescent editorials even when they were virulently homophobic. Yik Yak people, don't want to associate their names with this. They have the option, but they don't.
Because they don't stand their ground.
They're
No.
scared,
Exactly,
and I'm glad that we've made them scared.
exactly.
They need to stay scared.
But there's great power in people learning about, meeting your neighbor and understanding who your neighbor is and seeing that they're not this demonic person with horns and scales and stuff, unless they have a really good costume.
Yeah. I do have wings and those are very cute.
I bet they are. But congratulations, and yes, keep going, please.
Thank you. You guys did a fabulous job. I can't wait till next time. By the way, I'm the admin for our,
So those are, some of you are, going to Harlaxton, but might continue, well, Jesse's gonna continue for sure, Brenna might help out, and Jonathan's continuing, Peter, Isaiah.
I will be.
Oh, okay, great, so like, that's a pretty good, continuity. We might have to rope Haley into something, right, but
I mean, I'm down. I'm just gonna be busy next semester, so.
And
you can come to our events.
We've recruited a couple new people.
Yes, we
have.
will.
That's the hardest
So,
thing, is to get people
Dr.
signed.
Spanner, are you offering this next semester also?
Yep.
This will be offered through fall 2027 at least.
At least, yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't give me pen flyers to put out again.
I didn't make flyers, so sorry.
Okay.
I've been busy.
Just put it out there. That's so
We have to make sure we get a picture.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, YouTube.
Oh, no.
You wanna see it?
Not a picture.
Maybe
It
one
looks so awkward.
And then
I
Jesse
don't
will-
know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that wall right there.
You can stand like something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys need to come either up against
Blind
the wall.
ourselves.
That one would be better, 'cause that
Oh,
one's
guys,
pretty dark. Stand right there.